I've been thinking for a long time, how do you teach someone what factorial is? Because most of us, at least that's the way it was for me, uh, this formula is just introduced right off the bat, and you just really, you just plug in the numbers and um, but today I would like it to make sense what factorial is. So we have, of course, what it is, what we're used to seeing on the screen, and then what it actually is the number of unique arrangements, which if you've ever studied probability, this would be called a permutation. So it's the number of unique arrangements or permutations that can be made from indistinct items. So we're going to go ahead and build up to how we get this formula here. And it's going to make sense. So like all concepts in math, there's like a million different ways to approach it. And the way that I would like to approach it is, let's start off with n is equal to 2. So for n equal to 2, I am going to say that I have my two elements. They are A and B. So these are unique, distinct elements. A is not equal to B. All right. So let's see how many arrangements we can make out of them. I mean, we know from in factorial that we should be getting 2. But let's see what we find. All right, so I'm going to start off here. I have, the way I like to think about it is I have position 1 here, I have position 2 here. So if I want to make sure that I'm not repeating that this arrangement is unique, I'm first going to look at the position. And I know that I have 2 choices here. I have n equals 2 choices when it comes to filling this first position. I could choose A or I could choose B. I am going to choose A. And now I want to fill the second position of this arrangement. Well, how many choices do I have? I have n minus 1 choices. And the reason I have n minus 1 choices is that in a particular arrangement, the distinct element can only appear in one position. I already chose that. So I have n minus 1 that I can choose from, which in this case for n equals 2 is just 1. So I have one choice, and that's B. Okay, so there is one distinct arrangement if I have 2 distinct elements. So can I have another arrangement? Let's see. So I know that if I choose A again here in the first position, then my only other option would be to choose B. And then this is a repeat, so I can't have that. So I know that at this point, I have only one option here, and that is B. And then I only have one distinct element left to fill the second position with. So what we notice is that we really were only able to come up with two distinct arrangements, which is equal to factorial, 2 factorial. And there's not much that I would really say about that at this point. But let's go ahead. Let's move over, and let's do n equals 3. See if that's a little bit more interesting. I've got A, B, and I've got C. All right. So let's start making these arrangements. All right. So I'm going to focus on the first position. I have 3 options. I'm going to choose A. And then for the second position, I know that I already used A, so this time I have 2 options. I could do B or I could do C. So before, when I went to the second position up here, you'll notice that I only had 1 option to fill the second position, right? In both of these cases. Well, here, now that I have 3 elements, I actually have 2 options. And so here I am going to choose B. And then for the third position, now I have n minus 2 options. And that's because my n has increased from 2 to 1. Okay, so that only option in this case is C. So we can see that the choices that we have for, putting elements into each position is kind of limited. Like every time that, I pick my element, I fix that element. So I have 3 options here, and then I have n minus 1 options here and n minus 2 options here. So you can kind of see how as you begin filling, your options dwindle. But another sort of determining factor with these arrangements for factorial is now I also have to keep track of the arrangement before. So I don't just pick A in this case lightly. I'm not just picking these elements and looking at the arrangement. I am looking, as soon as I have one arrangement, every single arrangement after that has to be checked with the previous arrangement. Like, okay, am I getting any repeats here? So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look and see what happens. So again, I can choose, now that I have, as before, I would say, oh, I could choose, so I'm choosing A here. Here I have 2 options, right? I could choose B or I could choose C. But I actually don't have that option anymore. And that's because the arrangement above is constraining me. So now I have to select C, and now I select C, I only have 1 option here, which is B. Okay? So we'll notice that we're getting, when we hold this element stable here, in both of these cases, the only reason that we have, that we're able to have 2 arrangements here is because we're able to swap. So that's the reason that we're getting 2 arrangements here. All right. And so if you were to describe to me, how many arrangements did I get from doing this sort of operation? In this case, n is equal to 3, so we have 2 arrangements. So in terms of n, I would say I have n minus 1 arrangements here. So let's kind of just kick the can down the road and, see what happens if I keep going. So I would love to choose A again here, but I know that I can't because I already chose A in the first position. And if I choose it again, I'm not going to get a unique variation because when you have this n minus 1 equals 2 here, that just means that you're going to be able to have two arrangements because I have two elements and the only thing I can do is swap them, right? So I know that I have to choose B. And if I choose B, then I have two elements I could choose. I could choose A or I could choose C. I'm going to choose A. So then here I have C. And let's go ahead. You can kind of see the pattern here. It's really not that exciting. I'm going to choose B again, and then I know that the only option I have is to swap them. And we can just go ahead and finish this out. So from the same logic, I can no longer choose B in the first position, so I'll have to choose C. And so then I can choose A or B. I'll choose A, and then B is the only one left. And then the last unique arrangement that we can get for n is equal to 3 is going to be just swapping these, right? So if you zoom out, then what we have so far, you do kind of start to see that there's a pattern. So we have n minus 1 arrangements here, right? And then we have n minus 1 arrangements here. That's equal to 2. And n minus 1 arrangements here as well. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just make it make sense. Why is in factorial all of these, because I think that you can see here, okay, yeah, it makes sense. We have n minus 1. Your choices are dwindling as you begin to fill these unique arrangements. But then it's less sort of obvious why you have why these are factors. Why aren't we adding n minus 1? And so to make sense of why that's the case, let's look at how many of these n minus 1s that we have here. So we know that we have 2. In the first case, we got 2, which is n minus 1. And then the second sort of round of that logic that we applied, we got 2 plus 2, which is then 2 times n minus 1. And then the second round, we got, or the third, we got 2 plus 2 plus 2, which is equal to 3, n minus 1. But what is 3 in terms of n? 3 is n. So you have n times n minus 1. And over here you have 3 times 2. So then you might think that that's it, right? But that doesn't really actually give us like the full picture with factorial. And if we go back here, we can sort of do the same thing. We could say that we ended up with you have one arrangement here, which is equal to n minus 1, and one arrangement here, which is equal to n minus 1. And then we have 2 of those. So you can sort of see that they're both n times n minus 1. But that's not quite good enough. To see sort of the full picture, And I am going to do that. We are going to do n equals 4 because I think it's not clear quite yet how we're getting n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 all the way to the very end, where you have n minus 1. So let's go ahead and just move this stuff on over. Let for giggles here, let's take a look at n equals 4. So I've got A, I got B, C, and I got D. All right. Great. I am just going to put just a ton of dashes because, we know we're going to get stuff. Copy. Okay. And I'm just going to make a ton of these. Okay. So now let's go ahead and let's see where would the n minus 2 factor come into play now if we allow n to continue to grow. So we're now at n equals 4. Okay, so I'm going to do what I usually do. I should have put numbers down there. Damn. Okay, and I'm going to choose, my n. So I have all the choices from all the elements because I'm in the first position, so I can choose any of them. And I haven't created an arrangement yet. I haven't, this is the first arrangement and it's the first position, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and choose A. Now I have n minus 1 choices here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna choose B, and you guessed it, C and D. Great. Okay, so now I'm gonna choose A, and this time what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose B, and the reason that I'm going to choose B is because what I've been doing this entire time with A, where I fix um, an element to a given position as many times as I can without repeating arrangements, is it kind of gives me like an ability to sort of like track and see like how these arrangements are behaving. So I'm going to choose B. And then if I choose B, the only thing that I can do, it's just like before over here when we had n equals 2 and n equals 1. The only thing that I can do then, if I fix B, the only thing I can do is I can just swap. That's all I can do. So in this case, all I can do is swap D and C, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to do A again. Can I do B again? No, and I know I can't do B again for the same reason that I knew I couldn't keep the same distinct elements in the first position with n equals 3. And it's because I already did my one move. I already did a swap. My n minus 2 in this case is equal to 2. So the only thing I can do is swap. So I have to move on. And now I'm going to do AC. And then I am going to choose the remaining two, B and D, A, C. All I can do is swap. Okay, great. So now I've run out of A's, but you can see how long this thing is now. Let's go ahead and fill in the rest, and then we'll do some analysis, and we'll compare n equals 3 to n equals 4, and then we'll really begin to see the pattern. And it's gonna stick. It's gonna make sense. In Factorial is gonna make sense. And you probably even begin to see. I don't know if you've done any linear algebra yet, or studied matrices or anything like that, but it'll start to sort of make sense. Like, okay, I'm going to see this quite a bit, like in math. Anyway, we know we can't choose A anymore, so I'm going to choose B. And then I'm going to choose A, and we'll just do C and D. Okay, I'll do B again, keep A, all I can do is swap. Okay, so now I can't keep A in this case, and I can't do B either. So in this case, I'm going to choose, I guess, C. And then I can swap. So I'll do A, and then I'll do D here. Keep my C, I'll swap. And now I can't do C anymore, so I'll do D, I'll do my A and my C. And then that's it. I have no more options. I have just now, wait, does that make sense? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, I feel like I did something wrong here. Well, I think I should have had more here, right? B, B, C, C. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I moved on too soon. That's what happened. Yeah, I wasn't finished. Because here I have B, but I could also cycle through D and then swap the 2 remaining. So I have to do that. So D, and then my leftovers are B and C. So then I have A, I have D, C, and B. Okay. So I think we'll see how far we can go with this. You know, maybe we can just do analysis with this. Otherwise this can be kind of an annoying video. So yeah, I think what if we want to compare with what we had before, you know, I had these n-1 groups. And the reason that was helpful is because that was, to me, marking, okay, this is the arrangement where A can no longer be in the first position. So then I was like adding that together, sort of, and that's, I'm going to do the same thing here. I can. Even if I just have one, I can do that. So basically, every time that I am swapping these 2 here, I am doubling the amounts of these 2 here. I am doubling the amounts of arrangements that can have B. Right? So there's sort of a doubling factor when it comes to these 2 here at the end. And you can see that every single one of these arrangements is being doubled. And that's just because of this n-2 factor here. And you'll also notice that all of these here had A in the first position, right? So that's similar to our n equals 4. So we know that if I had gone through and done all of these, then I would have had 4 of what I'm showing you right now. So already, you know, we can extrapolate that that I would have n of whatever's in this block. But I'm going to sort of look a little bit further. So here I have a B and a B, a C and a C, and a D and a D. So that would be a repetition in the second column, but with all of the 4 distinct elements except for 1. And then here, all of these little blocks here, I have C and D, D and C, these are kind of the same thing. It's multiplying by 2. You know what? I thought of a better way to do this. Okay, so okay, let's do this side by side. So I'm looking at this here, but I'm also gonna say what we actually see, because this is why I wanted to do it this way, because it's like, you know, a kid could do this, right? Like you're just counting. I mean, it is a counting argument. That's it. Like, so I know that I'm going to have 4 of these, right? And that's the n up here. Now I know that in each of these 4, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 arguments added. So what I'm doing is I'm counting the arguments. So I know I'm going to have 4 of these entire things. I know I'm going to have 4 of, or I know I'm going to have 3 of whatever these are, right? So there's 3, but what is 3 in terms of n? It's n minus 1, and that's why these are the same terms. Okay, and so now what I have left over is I am doubling. So I am doubling each of these arguments here when I can swap them in between. So each time, even though I have different elements, each time I'm doing this, essentially all I'm doing is I'm just doubling. I'm doubling the arguments. Every time I can swap the last 2 elements, I'm doubling whatever we had here. So I wish I could undo this highlight. Maybe I can, because it doesn't really belong there. I don't really think it matches like the logic I'm trying to point out here. It's basically I'm doubling this every time I swap. And so you can see that happening here 4 times, right? So the doubling is happening in amount of times. Yeah. Here, and here, and here, and here, and here. Right. So then the doubling is a factor of 2. I'm applying 2. I'm applying 2 to each of these 3 groups, which gives me 6, but then there's 4 of those. So I don't know if that helps or not, but that would be why we have n minus 2, because 2 in terms of n in this case would be n minus 2, because you have 4 minus 2, which is 2. So it's clear to me. I hope that it's somewhat more clear to you. So it's almost like breaking the arrangements into these little subgroups almost, where it's like, okay, the small picture is is that if I look at the second position right here, okay, I can only keep it fixed to B, right? But then I can swap. So that means automatically, because I have that swapping, I can have 2 of each of these. So this is, this 2 factor is why we have this, and now we have this in our factorial. And then this multiplication of 3, I have 3. This 3 factor comes into play because I have 3 different options here when I'm not choosing A. And I can't choose A in the second position because I already used it in the first position. So that's where that 3 factor comes in. And then the 4 factor comes in if you had seen me fill out like all of these. Because we would have 4 blocks exactly the same size as this, but just with different arrangements. So yeah, that is why as n increases, you will have more terms. We got n minus one, n minus two, dot dot dot, all the way until you get to one. And so that's the logic behind in factorial. That way, if I have, I don't know, like 50 different distinct elements and, I'm an engineer or something, it's like, okay, how many different variations do I have to have? Then I would just use 50 factorial. And that's all the different unique arrangements that you could have. So I hope that helps and that it just sticks in your head a little bit better. Like, why does this work? And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting.